Let me tell you something that you already know, but you've forgotten it, or perhaps you've never heard it put this way before. If you want to be wealthy and happy, you have to deserve it, and that doesn't mean you trick the system or stumble into a jackpot. It means you become the kind of person who can carry that weight without being crushed by it. Responsibility, that's where it begins, and it's not a word we like much anymore. It's heavy, it's demanding, it whispers to you at 2 when you'd rather be distracted. But listen carefully, the path to everything meaningful, every form of sustainable wealth, be it financial, relational, spiritual, passes through the gateway of responsibility. You don't get to skate by with ease and expect to feel whole. You take up the heaviest load you can carry and walk forward with your eyes open. Now, in the ancient stories, and I mean the real ones, not the polished fairy tales, they talk about dragons. What is the dragon? It's chaos. It's everything you don't want to look at. It's your debt, your bad habits, your unresolved past, your broken relationships. But here's the deal. Behind the dragon always is the gold. And if you refuse to confront what is terrible, you forgo the treasure. You might say, but I'm afraid. Of course you're afraid. You should be. But that's no reason to run. I had a student once. He was brilliant but lazy, full of potential and bitterness. He wanted wealth, but he spent his nights chasing dopamine and his mornings in regret. I said to him, start by cleaning your room. Not because tidying a room is miraculous, but because it teaches you that order begins with you. That if you can take something small and transform it, you can scale that to the world. That's what discipline is. Small, consistent acts that shape you into someone formidable. Discipline isn't punishment, it's structure. It's the skeleton of freedom. Without it, your life is chaos. With it, you become dangerous, not in a malevolent way, but in a powerful way. The man who has the capacity for destruction but chooses to build instead, that's a man who can be trusted with wealth. That's a man who can be entrusted with happiness because he's earned it. Now, let's talk about money, because we have this notion floating around that to be rich is to be greedy or corrupt. That's dangerous thinking. If you're moral and you're competent and you create value, real value, then it is your moral obligation to succeed. Why? Because people need you. They need the jobs you'll create. They need the inspiration you'll radiate. The world doesn't benefit from you being small. It needs you strong so you can lift others up. Happiness is not the goal. Meaning is. Happiness is a fleeting byproduct, a welcome guest when you are living in truth, acting out your values, confronting your fears, and building something worthwhile. You want joy. Earn it by walking through the storm, not around it. You want peace. Face your own chaos and bring order to it. Look, life is suffering. That's the baseline, but you don't have to be a victim of it. You can be the person who voluntarily carries the burden, and if you do that, something remarkable happens. You find yourself not the weak, fragmented version that seeks comfort, but the integrated soul that stands up straight with their shoulders back and says, let go. I'm ready. So what are you waiting for? Clean your room, fix your words, stand up, make a plan, take aim, go after the thing that terrifies you, because that's where your treasure lies. We don't need more cynics. We don't need more slackers. We need heroes. B1, would you like a shortened version or a visual summary of the 5 key points? Certainly, here's an expanded version of Keynote 1, The Necessity of Responsibility, written in the voice and rhetorical style of Jordan Peterson, analytical, emotionally charged, drawing from mythology and personal reflection without a concluding statement. Let's talk seriously about responsibility, because you cannot talk about wealth or happiness in any meaningful way without starting there. We live in a culture that's increasingly allergic to that word. You can see it in our language, our politics, our entertainment. We're flooded with narratives that whisper or shout that it's someone else's fault. If the system is rigged, that happiness is something owed to you, and if you don't have it, someone else is to blame. But let me tell you something you won't hear often. No one is coming to rescue you. And thank God for that, because the moment you realize that, the burden of your life returns to you, and with it, the possibility of meaning. Responsibility is not just about tasks or chores. It's not about checking off boxes. It's about voluntarily shouldering the burden of being, and doing so with your eyes open. That's the sacred act. That's the archetypal journey. You take on something hard. You say, this mess, this challenge, this suffering, I'll take.
The hero never starts off as a king. He begins as someone inadequate, broken even, and the first thing he does is take responsibility. In myth, it's the moment when the ordinary man decides to leave home, to step into the unknown, to say, what needs to be done? I will do it, even if I fail, especially if I fail. That's where transformation begins, not with a demand for rights, but with the acceptance of duty. and it's scalable. You don't need to fix the world on day one. In fact, you're not even qualified to do that if you can't put your own life in order. Start with the smallest thing that's bothering you, pile of laundry you're ignoring, the email you're pretending doesn't exist, the apology you need to make. Face it. Take responsibility for just that. You'll notice something profound. The world responds to that effort. It rewards you not instantly, not always visibly, but inevitably. It bends toward those who show up. I've watched people change their lives by picking up responsibility. I had a client once, completely lost, addicted, angry, nihilistic. He believed nothing mattered, that the world was cruel and indifferent. And of course, it was because he was cruel and indifferent. We started small. Clean your room, I said. Go to bed at the same time every night. Show up to work 5 minutes early. Pay one small debt. He resisted. Fought it. But he did it. A year later, he was mentoring others. And I don't mean financially wealthy altho that came. I mean something deeper. He was respected by himself first and then by others. That's real wealth. Responsibility is the foundation of self-respect. You cannot be proud of yourself if you're not carrying anything. Why would you be? If your life is all comfort and no burden, you've outsourced your soul. You've handed over the reins to someone else, or worse, to nothing at all. And this matters not just for you, but for everyone around you. Because if you rise, others rise too. If you act with integrity, it grants permission to others to do the same. Your responsibility becomes a beacon, not in some grand messianic way, but in the most real way your kids will see it. Your spouse will feel it. Your friends will start to believe it's possible. That's how culture is built on responsible individual at a time. Let's not pretend this is easy. Of course it's not. It's brutally difficult. But so what? That's the point. That's what makes it worth doing. That's what gives it meaning. Responsibility is not the weight that crushes you. It's the weight that holds you together. Would you like me to expand Keynote 2 next? Confronting chaos to create order. Certainly. Here's an expanded version of Keynote 2. Confronting chaos to create order, written in the voice and style of Jordan Peterson, methodologically grounded, psychologically precise, emotionally stirring, and without a conclusion. It's not just a metaphor, it's real. It's the thing you avert your eyes from when you open that drawer filled with unopened bills. It's the panic you feel when you realize you don't know where your life is going. It's the fight you had 3 years ago that's still poisoning your marriage. It's illness. It's death. It's betrayal. Chaos as the domain of the unknown and what you haven't mastered, what you're afraid of, what you refuse to face. And yet, it is precisely there in that chaotic swirling abyss where your potential lies. Let me tell you a story you've heard before, though you might not recognize it at first. A young monophan, an orphan, or someone cast aside leaves his familiar world. He descends into darkness, into the underworld, sometimes literally. He fights the monster, the dragon, the tyrant. He rescues the treasure, the truth, the father, the bride. He returns changed, reborn. That's not just a fairy tale. That's you. Or it could be, if you had the courage to look, now, what is the dragon in your life? Think about it carefully. It's that thing you don't want to think about. That email you've avoided sending, that conversation that would unravel everything you've built, but maybe needs to, that addiction you keep excusing, that job you've outgrown, that truth you're not telling. That's the dragon. It guards your gold. And unless you face eternless, you confront itio, stay small. You stay resentful. You become bitter. And when bitterness takes root, It poisons everything. Huh? I've seen this firsthand. I once worked with a man intelligent, articulate, creative. But he was suffocating under the weight of unspoken resentment. He had been passed over for a promotion, led into this act of the very left, and he believed it was due to office politics. That might have been true, but instead of speaking up, instead of taking the chaos and attempting to impose structure on it, he retreated. He go passive. He became sarcastic, then angry, then isolated. His career stalled, not because he lacked competence, but because he wouldn't enter the unknown and say, "Wrong. Not. Something's wrong here, and I'm willing to engage."